Your Denver Broncos just got some eye-opening news that Ashton Jeanty is going to fall past the Raiders at 6, and he might fall past the Cowboys. Getting him is getting easier by the day as more and more quarterbacks are rumored to go early. We've got a ton to break down. We got news that Bo-LIEVE is definitely a better quarterback than Caleb Williams on and off the field. News that the deal we have for Pat Surtain is going to be the steal of the century. We got him locked down for the next 3 years, and it couldn't be better. And if you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me in the algorithm out a ton. If you like the Broncos, if you would like and subscribe. So we had an incredible interview I will link in the description to this video where Kay Adams, our girl, the truth serum, Kay Adams, has a great talk with Ashton Jeanty. And you can just tell by the smile on his face that the Broncos have been talking to him an absolute ton. He actually came out and said that the Broncos and the Raiders are the team that have been talking to him more than anyone else. We then have a quote here. A athletic reporter, Dan Brugler, who's very plugged in, pointed out the fact that Marvin Mims and Ashton Jeanty were on the same high school football team. Could you imagine how impossible that team must have been to stop with Ashton running the rock and Marvin Mims, the deep threat and the punt returner, like wild? And he ends his tweet with a parenthesis and says, "I wouldn't be surprised if they're teammates again in a few months." It seems crazy to draft a running back early in the NFL draft, as we've seen how many undrafted rookies play meaningful minutes or great steals like an Alvin Kamara in the third. Even seen Bucky Irving as a later pick last year light up the league just this last year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know you can find running back talent. But if you truly can look with a straight face and say, we're just a running back away from being a deep playoff contender, then you don't even think twice about drafting Ashton Jeanty early in the first round. And I think the Broncos are the only playoff team who with a straight face can say, we are just a running back away. The Raiders at 6 are way more than a running back away. You look, you could make an argument like that the Chargers need a running back, but they also need a tight end because all they have is Ladd McConkey. They also need defensive help. They also need some offensive line help. You truly can make an argument that the Broncos are just a running back away, and they're the only team in front of the 20th pick who can say that with a straight face, and that is why this is looking better and better. Now, it seems as if the Raiders are hedging towards finding another running back in this draft. So Kay Adams also had the Ohio State running back Quinshon Judkins on, and he talked about how great his relationship is with Chip Kelly, the former Ohio State guy who has tons of roots there. And you see Raiders absolutely loving this. You're seeing articles come out here that are just saying that the Raiders are not out on Shadeur Sanders at the 6th overall draft pick. And that is what it is feeling more and more like. Tom Pelissero came out, another plugged-in person, and said he thinks that the Raiders are going to draft Shadeur Sanders with the 6th overall draft pick. And that is why you see Quinshon Judkins be like, yeah, I'm talking to the Raiders all the time. I'm really plugged in there. And knowing that there's 2 Ohio State running backs who are linked to their new offensive coordinator who they just signed to a mega deal, that makes a ton of sense, and the Raiders need a ton of help there. And so that is just great news that, okay, wait, you're telling me Ashton Jeanty is going to fall past 6, and then we know that the 8th overall draft pick with the Carolina Panthers is in play, and so going from 20 to 8 isn't a huge jump anymore. It's one thing to be trading up into the top 5 for him, but just moving down 12 spots, I think we could get away with just giving up another second-round draft pick, and I 100% would do that for Ashton Jeanty, and he's the only one. Other news about why great talent is going to fall to us is now we are seeing that the New York Giants have actually have private workouts with 3 different quarterbacks not named Cam Ward. And so we came into this season or into this draft period saying, oh, we might have 1 or maybe 2 first-round quarterbacks. And now it's looking like you could have up to 4 because Jalen Milroe isn't just like a first-round quarterback. He's invited to the NFL draft in Wisconsin, and he's attending it, meaning he's not planning on doing an Aaron Rodgers and waiting till hour 3 of the draft. He's planning on going early, and that's why he's in person. And now you're seeing so much talk all about this Tyler Show kid who I know absolutely nothing about, but you're seeing a lot of plugged-in people saying like he's the Bo-LIEVE of this draft, and he's going to be the steal of this draft. We remember last year Bo-LIEVE went number 12. We had 6 quarterbacks go before the 12th pick. That's crazy. That means so much talent fell to that point. I see that same thing shaping up here. I think you're going to have 4 quarterbacks in the first round of this draft, which just is a fantastic situation for your Broncos to be in because that's how you get Ashton Jeanty to fall into striking distance for us. Now there's rumors here. A lot of people are like, well, if he falls past the the Raiders, he's going to definitely get snatched up by the Cowboys. Well, the Cowboys are actually the team who've met with the most running backs throughout this entire period, as they've met with 11 different running backs, whether those are top 30 visits or private meetings at the NFL Combine. And to me, this is showing like, hey, we need to have a plan that's not Ashton Jeanty, because the Cowboys have so many problems. They've got to deal with like the Micah Parsons redeal. Like, do they really trust Dak Prescott to be their quarterback of the future? They have so many needs there. They're a mediocre team at best, which is why I'm thrilled we get to play them this year at home. Then seeing here, the Broncos are in the top 5 as far as number of running backs they have met with as well. And that's where I trust Sean Payton, that if Ashton Jeanty is not in striking distance, I do not think he is going to reach on a running back. That would be the worst case scenario, is he reaches on a running back, because we need one. We need to draft the best available player and trust Sean Payton to find his running back. Now, if he does end up at pick 20, picking someone crazy like Tootin from Virginia Tech, or the speedster out of Tennessee, and all of us, our immediate reaction is to be like, well, Mel Kiper had him as a 3rd round. We reached on him. Remember last year when Bo Nix was a 3rd round pick for a lot of people, and all of the national media said Bo Nix was a reach. This is where you trust Sean Payton. He won't reach, and whoever he drafts, he's going to be in love with, and that's absolutely fantastic. Looking at some of our top 30 visits and who we are visiting with, it's interesting to me that we've visited with a ton of running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. Mike Kliss pointed out the fact that of our top 30 visits, we had the 2 fastest guys at the NFL Combine, knowing that the Broncos have to match the Kansas City Chiefs speed. So we met with Matthew Golden, who was the fastest running wide receiver in this draft class. And then that we also met with the fastest corner in this draft class, 4.28 and 4.29 40s, which is wicked fast there. And knowing that, and it looks like here they also met with Jaden Blue, who ran a 4.25. So the Broncos are meeting with speedsters, but also worth pointing out here that of the dudes last year that the Broncos met with in top 30 visits, the only one they actually ended up getting and going and drafting was Bo Nix, that Sean Payton really is playing checkers while everyone else is playing ping pong, or I was supposed to say chess while everyone else is playing checkers. He is using these top 30 visits as ways to find out information about other players and really evaluate what he wants at that position. So we can't read too much into the names of people, but you definitely can read into the positions, and knowing that it's heavy on running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. Absolutely great there. Also interesting to note here that this draft is very top heavy and then middle deep, but not like stars, right? So you got a ton of great dudes at the very top, and then you have a bunch of great, but not write home about it, like rip your shirt off, you're so excited. And so looking here that there are only 17 people who've accepted the invite to actually be in attendance in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And looking here, Cody Rourke, NFL Locked On Broncos, pointed out that this is a smaller class actually attending that first night. And I think that's a sign that, like, after that top 10, there's a lot of questions like, wait, is Milroe going to wait? Or how long will Milroe be on the board? So interesting there to see what happens. We also now get crazy news here. A lot of inside Miami sources had talked about a big trade coming for the Miami Dolphins, and all of the signs pointed to Tyreek Hill. That still is definitely in play and very much could happen, but I think his domestic violence dispute has jumbled that up a bit, and teams aren't going to act on that. He also has that post-June or June 1st date with his cap hit and all that kind of stuff. But the inside source saying a trade was coming, it actually was about the guy who a day after Patrick Surtain got his deal, got re-upped and got paid more than Patrick Surtain. And can you imagine how angry you would be if you're a Miami Dolphins fan and you just gave the absolute bag to this dude, and he is such a distraction and there's so much dysfunction in the Miami organization that he is parting ways there and is seeking a trade elsewhere. I think there's a lot of folks linking him to the Vegas Raiders. He talked about wanting to play for the Raiders. It's another place you can play and not have to pay income tax because they're tax-free haven there, I guess. And I think that'd be great because I don't think he's worth what Pat Surtain is, and he's getting paid more, and he's much older and not a difference maker anymore. So interesting to me. Great news because, man, he goes to the Raiders. I don't think it makes them demonstrably better. I think they're tied to his money then for a long time. which is great for us. And it's also great that the Dolphins are losing him, because as the Broncos are gunning for a playoff spot next year, we know we got to compete with the Dolphins for a playoff spot. It would be fantastic if they underperformed like they did last year. Again, this kind of is pointing out what I was saying earlier here, is that we are having so much talk about quarterback and offensive line and Abdul Carter and these great cornerbacks, that there are a lot of folks out there predicting that a top wide receiver isn't going to go within the first 15 picks of the NFL draft. So if that is what Sean Payton wants, and I told you guys yesterday, that's not what I want. I feel very good about our receiving core right now, but it's looking like you could have all of the wide receivers still on the board at 15, which means if the Broncos want to trade back and give that 20th pick to somebody who wants a top flight wide receiver, we might actually be able to get quite a bit for that 20th overall draft pick, knowing if you still got Luther Burden and Golden and Tet McMillan on the board, that could be a great thing where, man, could the Broncos pick up a second-round draft pick just for trading back a couple picks and finding the running back they wanted anyways, because you still have so many wide receivers on the board. Really, guys, the Broncos are a running back away. We are just seeing all these advanced analytics that just keep, people keep re-churning them over in my timeline, and I love seeing them. And one of the ones that just stands out to me is that Bo Nix, as a rookie, was the fourth best quarterback when it came to hanging onto the ball, and 1.8% of his plays last year were turnover-worthy plays, and that is just a fantastic thing. That's why we can say with a straight face we are just a running back away. And as we hear about just dysfunction and underperformance and all these folks throwing around the term generational, I can't help but think of last year, how we maybe were discouraged in Denver because we don't have a shot at Caleb Williams because he's this generational talent and the first pick in the NFL draft. And you're just seeing more and more here that he is a diva. He doesn't want to make friends in the NFL because all he cares about is competing, and he just gives me Jay Cutler vibes up and down. And I think that in 5 years, we're already saying it in 1 year, but I think in 5 years, we'll all look back at this draft and just say to ourselves, we stole the draft by getting Bo Nix, and that's something we can all believe in. Ooh, I'm back.